Hey, Keith here with AskDADventureDisney episode number 8, or as my preschooler who's learning how to count calls it, the snowman. This is here for all people who are looking for planning tips or tricks, especially when you're traveling with little kids. I have 3 little kids, 6 and under, and so when Disney planning comes a-calling, I always focus on those little ones. A lot of places don't do that, but I'm here for you to be able to do that. This week, the question comes from Rebecca with 2 Ks, which is pretty cool, and she emailed us at DADventureDisney@gmail.com and wanted to know what were 3 mistakes I made on my most recent trip. Well, Rebecca, thank you for trusting in me and believing me. No, but it's a great question. There are mistakes that I made, and I'll talk about 3 of the ones that I made that really kind of didn't put a damper on my day, but definitely made me rethink the way that I wanted to do things. The first is the Main Street Parade at Disney World. It's a fantastic parade. I love it. And we didn't plan on going on it because usually we like to take a break in the middle of the day and go back to the resort and kind of cool off and refresh and rest a little bit and head back to another park in the afternoon to really get back into the game of things. And the parade usually gets lost in the shuffle. But we were leaving one day after lunch, the Magic Kingdom, and everyone was starting to sit on the curb. And I was like, you know what? The parade's right here. We might as well watch it with the kids. It'll be a lot of fun. And so there was a ton of people on one side, the side of the street with the Emporium on it, and across the other side where the confectionery is, there weren't a whole lot of people sitting there. So we said, great, let's go pull up some curb, and we sat down, and then we realized why. Because right at the time of the parade, the sun beats down on that side of the street like nobody's business. And that you would think I would know this. Anytime I go to a baseball game, whether it be Yankee Stadium or the local minor league park down the road from us, I always try to see which way the sun goes, and that's where I buy my seat to stay in the shade opposite. I didn't even think about this at Disney World. I just thought, hey, an empty curb on the other side of the street, let's cross the road and go over there and check it out. And we sat there and sweated and sweated and sweated, and this was in mid to late November, mind you, as that sun beat down on us from underneath, behind the really big Christmas tree. The sun just beat down on us as we watched the parade. Now, we watched the parade. It was fantastic. We had a ton of fun, and it's a great parade, but it was definitely hot. So my way to get around this for you is if you are going to go to the Main Street Parade and you see everybody sitting on one side, take a look at the sun. Take a look and see where it's shining, and go sit on the shade on the opposite side. Make sure that you pick the shady side of the street to sit on and watch the Main Street Parade. It will make you a whole lot happier. The second thing that we kind of ran into that we weren't expecting is that I fast-passed the Dumbo ride, forgetting that the queue for the Dumbo ride is actually a giant playground, and they give you a buzzer, like you kind of get it like Chili's when they're waiting for your table. They give you a buzzer, and when it's your turn, you go get in line. So there's actually a playground for kids to be able to climb around and play in and jump around and run and have a good time. So we had fast passed it because my kids really were excited about the Dumbo ride, and I wanted to make sure that we got on it. But with the fast pass, we bypassed the whole little kids carnival section of it, which was really disappointing. We ended up going back again a second time to make sure that they were able to play in there. But there's no need to fast pass it if your kids want to have a little bit of time and it's air conditioned. A little bit of time to run around while you sit in the air conditioning and watch them play, waiting to get on the Dumbo ride. So there's no need to fast pass Dumbo. You can skip that and move on to something else. The third mistake I made was I had booked 8 a.m. breakfast reservations at the Akershus Royal Ballroom there, the Royal Hall in Norway at Epcot. And it's a princess character breakfast. And I wanted the very first one I could get because I wanted to get into the park before everyone else so that we could be on the Frozen ride early. That's not the problem. That wasn't the mistake. The mistake was that I believed stuff that I had read and even was told by a cast member on the Disney World website chat that there's a thing called a breakfast bus, and that the breakfast bus goes around to all the resorts and picks people up and brings them to their early morning resort advanced dining reservations before the parks open. Epcot only opens at 9, and the nations don't open up until after that at Epcot. So I didn't know what was going on. The Skyliners don't go to the International Gateway that early. The buses aren't running that early. How do I get there? I went to the concierge when I checked in just to confirm about the breakfast bus and see what time it picks up and where it picks up. And I was told that there's no such thing. I mean, she looked at me like I had 2 heads. Then she went and asked the head concierge, who came over and echoed the same thing. There's no such thing as a breakfast bus. After being told several times that there's no such thing as the Disney morning breakfast bus, I asked what they could do. I showed them the chat transcript on my phone from a Disney World employee on the Disney World website, and they agreed that that was wrong information. So what they did was they gave me, as Disney does, they made it right. And they gave me a certificate for a Mears taxi, a minivan with 3 car seats to come and pick us up and take us to Epcot before anything opened, which was great. But the mistake was not planning for that in advance. So if you have an early morning ADR before the parks are officially open, you're going to kind of be on your own to make sure you can get to those parks. So whether you can walk there, if you're staying at a hotel that's a resort that's close enough to walk to your park, or you drove yourself, but you're probably going to need to get a cab or a minivan or Uber or something to be able to take you to your resort or park that you have the early morning breakfast. The early morning breakfast was great. We loved it. I'll talk about it in a future Ask DADventure Disney, because I've had a couple questions of people asking me about what character meals we had, and so we'll talk about that again. But it's definitely something that you want to keep in mind. And you also have to bring cash, because you're going to want to tip this driver who's taking you there. So bring some cash so that you can tip them nicely, which is a nice thing to do for these people up really early in the morning to take you to a park. So it was interesting. The thing that really got me was when I was talking to the concierge about this, it was as if I was the first person ever to mention this to either of these two people, including the person who's the head concierge at the Caribbean Beach Resort. And it really kind of dawned on me that sometimes Disney World is so big that one half of it think is something true, one half of it may never have heard of before. So just keep those things in mind. Double check. I kind of had a suspicion, which is why I asked again when I checked in, just to double check and make sure. And thank goodness I did, or I would have been sitting there waiting for the breakfast bus to arrive, and we would have missed our reservation, would have missed getting a Frozen first, would have missed that great breakfast, and been out that money because it's not going to be refundable. But it was cool. And then the other thing is we got to see Epcot. We were the very first people at the gates to get into Epcot, and so we got to spend time. It was like Epcot, employees, and my family. That's who was there. And it was really cool to just see that and see what they were doing and how Epcot was just empty. There was just no one there. I mean, talk about great ideas and great times to be able to take pictures as we walked all the way around to Norway through the food and wine festival areas with all the closed booths, but lots of places to be able to take pictures. Anyway, Rebecca, thank you so much for the question. Those are 3 of the mistakes that I made on this last trip. I made a bunch more, but those were the 3 top that came into my head. I hope that I helped a little bit. People can get around that, especially that breakfast bus. There's no such thing as the breakfast bus, or maybe some resorts do have it. I don't know. If you know, hit the comments below and tell me if there's such a thing as a breakfast bus. Is it a myth? Is it real? Is it legend? I don't know. Let's find out together, shall we? Okay. If you have a question for Ask DADventure Disney, please send it in. I'm starting to run out, and that scares me because I really like doing these videos. So what I want you to do is I want you to tag Ask DADventure Disney, or find us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, at DADventure Disney. You can send me an email just like Rebecca did, dadventuredisney@gmail.com. And you can visit our website, dadventuredisney.com, and find the contact section there and be able to say hi and send us a question in that way. All the questions are ones that we look at, we research, and we really try to put together some great things for you to be able to be here. 8 great episodes in, and I hope to be able to do a whole lot more. So keep those questions coming in. I hope that we get to see you guys really soon in the park. Thank you for watching. It means the world to me. It really does. And I'll see you soon. So long.